Hey, what's up, friends? SGT here with our good friend Mark S. Mann, a firearms industry insider and an all-around good guy. Mark has broken Sandy Hook down for us on numerous occasions, and we welcome him back to talk about the criminal-in-chief's gun grab. Mark, welcome back.
Hey, Sean, good to be with you again.
Well, Mark, it's terrific to have you back, and just for the audience, I want people to know that, we're not going to dig into Sandy Hook at this point on this call because there are so many great patriots and alternative media journalists who are really fleshing out that story, our friends at Intel Hub and other great places on the net and on YouTube. People are really all over this story, Mark. So, Mark, let me toss this one out at you. Breaking news on Friday that California is announcing a semi-automatic confiscation ban. And I just want to read you this quote from the Los Angeles mayor. He says, California has always been a leader on the issue of gun safety. New York has stepped up and stepped forward. California needs to answer the call. Mark, this new law would outlaw all semi-automatic weapons in the state and force gun owners to load bullets one at a time. What do you make of this new tyrannical slippery slope step?
Well, I think it was to be expected from a state like California. And back in the early 90s, before the National Assault Rifle Bill went into effect, California did their own, and California required a registration of assault weapons back then, and they estimate that probably about 50% of the people complied. Now, that means that there were probably a lot of people whose rifles haven't seen the light of day since that time, but it does go to show you that people don't really care what the law is if they believe that they're right. And I'm not surprised that California did this. I am not surprised if other states do this. And I think the interesting thing for patriots and like-minded people, libertarians, is to see what happens in the state of California. Now let's see how many people actually come and surrender their weapons or basically register them or whatever they're going to do to be on the list for somebody to come and get them. My thing is, this is interesting in the sense of let's see how they roll this out.
Well, let me lay this one out for you, too, Mark. You probably read this, but in addition, California will impose new rules on ammunition sales. Ammo buyers will be required to pay a fee and undergo a background check by the State Department of Justice every time bullets are sold, thus recording all ammo sales and purchaser information within the state. Now, anyone living in California that is going to sit idly by and watch this happen. Now, apparently they only need a majority to pass this, and since the Democrats control the House and the Democrats are in control of the state, they're going to pass this, Mark.
Yeah, I think they probably will, and I think it'll probably happen very similar to the way New York happened. Just to let you know, in the state of New York, which I have a lot of industry ties to, I'm not going to get into why, because I will say this. The company I work for is headquartered in New York State, and that's kind of a big tell, but I don't mind putting that out there. We're looking at it. The reason why I'm saying that is because I want people to know that I'm on the front lines of this. When I say something, I'm not just giving my opinion. And I can tell you right now, the state police have asked dealers in the state of New York to stop selling ammunition because they're supposed to, under the new laws which have been passed, require a background check for every box of ammunition. The federal system cannot take that kind of volume. Can you imagine somebody going in to buy a box of 50 22 long rifle and you have to go get a check for that? That would crash the system. So effectively, the state police have asked for dealers to stop selling ammunition. The reason why I bring that up, Sean, is because what's happening is you see the lawmakers, for lack of a better term, coming up with this crap, and they don't even know how they're going to implement it, where the laws that they're passing are not even practical for implication because there's no way that they're even useful in the sense that how do you pass a law that requires a check for every box of ammunition sold when you don't have the capability in the system to do that? There's people that say that's intentional, but I wouldn't give them that much credit. I think they're pretty stupid in what they do, and they don't even think it through. 170-something amendments to the law in New York to the point where the New York State Police have set up a hotline for dealers and people in the industry to call because they don't even know some of the answers. So it's like, okay, we're going to pass this law, but we don't know how we're going to go about enforcing it or implementing it. And, then you see people in New York, like we've seen in the videos that you posted and other people have posted, where people are mad as hell. And, how do you pass a law, but yet nobody really knows what the law is or how you're going to enforce it? So that could be intentional. It may not be. But the bottom line is it shows how incompetent the people at the reins are, how incompetent our elected officials are, and how little they care for your Second Amendment rights and how to properly do things. So it's more of the same, and this probably will end up, where does it all end? My opinion on that is we're going to go back to the same way we were in the early 90s, where there's gun laws for the red states and gun laws for the blue states. And for all the people out there that are mad as hell, we may end up in a situation where if you want to live in a free country, you have to live in a free state. And that may mean voting with your feet if it comes down to it.
Yeah, as we've talked about many times, and I like to post on some of the news items, your criminal government, right? So in California, the criminal government, which includes Dianne Feinstein, is in charge, and let's not look to them to pass any laws that make any sort of common sense. So mentioning Dianne Feinstein sort of bridges me over to this Christopher Dorner, the scorned supposed LAPD cop who wrote the manifesto online, which included an anti-gun rant so full of vitriol it made me wonder if perhaps the DOD or the DHS had a hand in writing it. Have you been following that story?
I have, Sean, and what I'm going to say about it is not because I'm a police officer. I'm not, hiding behind any blue wall or anything like that. I'm going to basically go out and say, after reading this guy's manifesto and reading some of the stuff that's out there, I'm going to say he's just batshit crazy.
Let me jump in because I totally agree with you. Okay. Let me just read a portion of that manifesto because, after giving this 24 hours of thought, I tend to think that maybe this guy, to your point, is just nuts because, imagine if he was a Tea Party person, this would be all over the media that he was out there, he wants guns seized and he's using guns yet to murder people. So on one hand, he wants guns outlawed. On the other hand, he's willing to go murder people and not follow the laws anyway, which is just a whole other can of worms. But let me read this to you because this is insane. I just want to read this for folks who haven't heard this. Dorner allegedly wrote in his manifesto, quote, "If you had a well-regulated AWB, this would not happen. The time is now to reinstitute a ban that will save lives. Why does any sportsman need a 30-round magazine for hunting? Why does anyone need a suppressor?" So he writes, why does anyone need an AR-15 rifle? He goes on to impugn the AR-15. He then praises Mia Farrow and Dianne Feinstein, right? He says, who needs a frickin' SBR AR-15? No one. No more Virginia Tech, Columbine, Wisconsin Temple, Aurora Theater, Portland Malls, Tucson Rally, Sandy Hook in Newton. He says, Mia Farrow said it best, gun control is no longer debatable. It's not a conversation. It's a moral debate. He then goes on to praise Feinstein. I mean, the guy is just off his rocker.
Well, for as intelligent as he gives himself credit for being, he obviously doesn't understand the purpose of the Second Amendment. So if he's going to rant and rave, the thing is, Sean, when you see the diary of a madman like that, that doesn't really help the other side. So that's why I don't really think that, he's got any connection to, any of these people that he's crediting. The reason why I say that is it doesn't help their cause to be associated with a lunatic. Whether it's Piers Morgan or Feinstein or the Obama administration, they're probably looking at this guy and just cringing, saying, why did he even have to mention our name? So, but that's not to say that the media isn't going to use it to sell fear to the public, which is their main game anyway. So whether this guy is supporting Feinstein and the Obama administration and all this other stuff, the media is still going to use it to their advantage to paint a picture of how bad guns are and, sell fear to the public. I just read today that they're locking, they canceled school for a lot of places there, and with this amount of resources looking for the guy, I can't imagine that he's going to be out there for much longer. Eventually, they're going to get him. The question is, how violent is the showdown going to be? This doesn't seem like a guy that's going to be taken prisoner. He's probably going to end up dead. Either that, or he'll make a mockery. They will catch him alive, and he'll make a mockery out of the justice system, just like the Long Island shooter did, the guy who went on the the Long Island Railroad with a semi-automatic handgun in the early 90s. I believe his name was like Colin something or other, something like that.
Yeah, and then defended himself in court.
Right. He made a mockery out of the justice system for months, and this guy. The reason why I say that is because based on his diatribe, he obviously likes to hear the sound of his own voice, and he believes that he's justified in a lot of ways for doing what he's done. So I see it happening two ways. Either he's going to go do something like that to give himself a pulpit to continue to spew his stupidity, or he's going to say, I'm not going to jail. You're not taking me alive. And he's going to see how many more he can add to his kill list before he takes it himself. So either way, it can't end well for the people of California. I think they're the main victims, the people that were killed by this guy and the citizens of the state, because now they have to deal with the aftermath of his actions. And that is very consistent with what these people do. Some guy goes crazy and does stupid things, and they take it out on the law-abiding citizens. So more of the same, really.
Well, yeah, talk about law-abiding citizens. So now, of course, you've got Feinstein and the criminal lawmakers in California saying, well, we're going to confiscate the law-abiding citizens' guns so that when a madman like Christopher Dornan goes nuts, you're not going to be able to defend yourself. Because, again, the point needs to be made time and time and time and time again until the idiots who are intellectually dishonest about this argument come to realize that the criminals are not going to turn in their guns. The criminals will use their guns to victimize the people who have turned in their guns, right? So, again, it'll be the law-abiding, tax-paying citizen who takes it in the shorts and watches their family get butchered by a madman. And it just outrages me, Mark.
Yeah, I agree. The thing, you almost want to ask these people, is there a place that we should go and cower when someone like this shows up at our door? Is there like a standard operating procedure where we should soil our pants and go hide in a corner rather than be able to defend ourselves?
Oh, yeah.
That's what they want to do.
Have you seen that DHS video where that's exactly what they instruct you to do? They instruct you to hide. Run and hide. Hide under your desk. Hide. Here comes
throw stuff at him.
Yeah, here comes a shooter. Throw scissors at him.
Yeah.
I mean,
throw pencils and staplers at them. Lock your door. They teach you how to hide. It's a joke. It's a joke.
But that is really the punchline to this whole conversation, and really this sick, twisted Christopher Dornan rampage and the sick, twisted manifesto that he wrote is that he's on the loose, while the criminals in charge of the California government were talking about taking weapons from honest people. It needs to be underscored and highlighted how insane that is.
I agree.
So, guys, stay tuned. In Part 2, Mark and I are going to talk about all sorts of things, weapons, Second Amendment, firearms related. We're going to be talking about demand heasing in the industry, what to do if you don't have guns, what to do if you already have guns, and what to do moving forward. Absolutely stay tuned for Part 2. Thanks for tuning in to sgtreport.com and the Liberty Mill. Real News 24/7. We really do appreciate your support. Click on Part 2 right here.